Hello and welcome back to Hollowponds Solo Sagas and a new series. We will be playing Savage Worlds. Haven't played Savage Worlds in years. And not only will we be playing Savage Worlds, we'll be playing Savage Rifts. We're playing Rifts, which was the vote. You voted for it ages ago now. Rifts, Savage Worlds. But, strictly speaking, this would be episode 1, but instead this is episode 0. This is Sprint 0. Yes, I do miss being a Scrum Master. Not that much though. So Sprint 0. So basically what I thought I would do is this is going to serve two purposes. It's going to be a bit of a how-to set up a game, or how I set up a game for a system that doesn't necessarily have solo rules built into it. And B, I'm going to be telling you about the world for Rifts. I was going to do character generation during this. Doing the standard first episode, we'll do some character generation. I will do that in this session 1, which will be next week. So we'll do the character, but I'll tell you what the character is going to be, why we chose that sort of character, what about the world, how to solo Savage Worlds, and I'm also going to slag off someone who writes solo guides for people, which we'll start with. There is a solo guide out there for Savage Worlds. It's written by someone who's produced a lot of solo guides, and the Savage Worlds one, as well as a lot of his other ones, I have come to the realization they are not worth the money. Really and truly, it's a horrible thing to slag off someone else's work, and particularly if it's somebody else's livelihood. You shouldn't do that. It's a bad thing to do, and I'm a bad person for doing it. But I worry that someone who hasn't solo played before will pick up one of those and think, oh my god, this doesn't really help me. There's nothing that can help me. Whereas there are things that can help you. So a solo guide for Savage Worlds isn't that useful, because Savage Worlds is like having a solo guide for GURPS. GURPS is just a framework to then slot a specific genre into. Savage Worlds is a framework. A solo guide for Savage Worlds doesn't help you. You want a solo guide for the thing, for Deadlands, or for Rippers, or for Rifts, because otherwise it doesn't really help you. So don't worry about that solo guide. You can build the things yourself. It's easy. This is what I have done for soloing Savage Worlds Rifts. 1, make sure you know the rule system. Now, I've played Savage Worlds before. I went through and I've read up everything that I can remember on Savage Worlds, but cursory. So I haven't done as deep a dive like I'm going to do with Captain's Log for the Star Trek one, because I've never played that, but Savage Worlds I've played. So exploding dice, fine. The soaking rolls and damage rolls has always confused me, so if anything, this session gives me some more time to get my head around that. Fine. Spending bennies, fine. I've got that down pat. Powers, we never really played with powers, so I really need to do that because Rifts is heavy duty on powers and overpowered characters. So, learn your base system. I've done that for Savage Worlds. I've got that pat. Next, work out what you need to know about the actual setting. So, Savage Worlds Rifts. I have read the Tomorrow's Legion Player's Guide, and so I know Rifts from back in the day, but I've not played Rifts. So I know the setting. So what Rifts is in the past, we had a golden age. During that golden age, we had high-end technology, we had all sorts of stuff, but people pushed that a bit too far and built weapons that were weapons of mass destruction. A war took place and a huge number of people were killed simultaneously, very much an Alderaan type situation, and there was an outburst of psychic energy. This outburst of psychic energy caused the ley lines around the world to fluctuate and to burst forth. That ripped open holes in space-time, causing the rifts. Things came through the rifts. People went the other way, but stuff came here. Aliens, dimensional beings, DBs, came through the rifts. Bits of world materialized on planet Earth. There was an apocalypse. Everything went to hell. The rifts and the ley lines began to settle down, and now we are in a post-apocalyptic world where the rifts have settled. There are bits of all sorts of worlds everywhere. There's huge amounts of power. There's trans-dimensional beings, there's Cthulhu-like beings, there's dungeon type areas, there's dragons, there's high-tech stuff. The world is a mishmash of all sorts of stuff, and the survivors are here on Rifts Earth. Now what this basically means is Rifts gives you the opportunity for you to put anything you want into one setting. You can have a dungeon crawl with space marines. You can have a high-tech heist, cyberpunk type heist using, I don't know, pixies and knights in shining armor. There's all sorts of stuff that you can mix using psionics, using magic, using high-tech weaponry, using low-tech stuff, but the power level of Savage Worlds Rifts is up there. So I read the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide, and I understand the world. Next, I grabbed hold of the Savage Foes of North America, and I gave that a look through to see what sort of things would I be possibly going up against. And within all of these books, because that's a core thing within Savage Worlds, there are adventure prompts, plot point type things, so giving us an idea of stuff. So I went through and I've done that. So I basically then had an idea of the world, an idea of the sort of stuff we'd be doing. I briefly read the Tomorrow's Legion Field Manual. Now the Tomorrow's Legion Field Manual gives you a few more advantages to characters, but it also takes a whole bunch of the one pages. Savage Worlds does a lot of adventures called one pages, where it basically just goes through very basically a plot point, a plot progression, a couple of scenes, and then some basic baddies. There's a lot of those within the Tomorrow's Legion Field Manual. So that gives us a lot of background information. And then, and I'm just on the last couple of chapters of it, I've been reading through the Rifts, Savage Worlds Rifts Game Master's Handbook. Now this is where I then, because this has got a map of the North America, Savage Earth, North America that I went through. And if I can get that picture, then Editing Pete will stick that picture up so you can see what we've seen. So that is the world. Now we'll come back to that image, and Editing Pete will take the world. So we now have an understanding. Now that takes a while for you to read that stuff, and that's reading. So that's homework. I did a blog post about it. At the moment, a large portion of what my job is, as I lost my job, now I'm just doing this. I got made redundant. I'm allowed to say that, I think. And so I'm doing this for a bit until we move to the Netherlands at the end of the year. Because if I start a new contract or get a gig here in Australia now, I'm not going to be here for that long. It doesn't seem so. I'm doing this. So I have lots of time to read at the moment, and also do editing and social media posts. But it's reading, so make sure you've got that background information, because if you dive in too soon, you will get lost and get swamped. So now you have the information. So what you now need to work out is, what sort of soloing do you want to do? Do you want to build a team, or do you want to go solo? Now, based on the power level that you can get out of one character in Savage Worlds Rifts, I have decided to go for a single character. Now, there's various different single characters you can attempt to use within Savage Worlds Rifts. There's the Glitter Boy, who is basically a walking tank. That might be cool, but there's less interpersonal stuff. That would be pure combat if I played that. And then we're seeing that in Lancer that I recorded a couple of days ago. It's all just one big like skirmish game. I don't want to have another one of those. And this is also, I'll be doing this, and I'll come around to that near the end of this. I've decided this is going to be theatre of the mind. We will not use figures, even though Savage Worlds works really well with figures on the table, and it's mainly for that. I've come up with a few guidelines, basically taking some stuff from Forbidden Lands and from the Electric State, and trying to put that into, so we could do that for Savage Worlds. Oh, also 1,000 Dead Worlds, I took something from that as well. And so we're not going to be using minis, but we want some sort of character that will be able to do stuff. So looking through the different character things, we've got various things like the Juicer, that's quite cool. There's the, the Burner. They're all quite cool and iconic. They call them iconic frameworks. But the only one that seemed to be someone who could do some talking, that people would have respect for, that seemed to be an honourable character type is, of course, and if you know Rifts, it's the Cyber Knight. So I have chosen that the solo character, and if you were going to do it, I would say go through those sort of thought processes. What sort of character is going to give you longevity? You don't have other characters to bounce off of. I wouldn't, if I took a Glitter Boy, I don't have any, like Glitter Boy out of his armour isn't much. And if a Glitter Boy is taking social interaction skills in armour, it's pointless. And so I thought a Cyber Knight gives you the fact that they are normally loners, they're a bit Jedis, they're a bit Knights of the Round Table, they go off and they do jobs by themselves, they've got good armour, they've got good offensive skills, they have some psionic abilities, they would have people within outcrops and settlements might be able to be more accepting, because one of the things of the premise is that although there is a sort of electronic money and the internet has sort of come back, there is no long communication systems. You cannot make a phone call between Australia and the Netherlands. That is impossible. You need to get a message being moved by hand. So between Sydney and Adelaide, maybe, but probably not. Between North Sydney and the eastern suburbs, yeah, you could probably do a communication call and do some sort of radio call between that sort of distance. But from the other side of the country, no. The other side of the world, definitely no. There's no satellite communication, there's no hardwired networks, there's no nothing. Now within some of the big cities within Rifts, there might be some digital communication networks, and between the big cities, there is an enemy called the Coalition. The Coalition is basically, the Coalition didn't do necessarily all bad, they brought humanity through the apocalypse. Because of the Coalition, we came through the apocalypse. But the Coalition is a bit Elon Musk. It's a bit Nazi. I do apologise if you are a fan of Elon Musk, but he has gone down in my esteem quite dramatically, including his intelligence. I do not personally think he is intelligent as he sells himself as. An intelligent person doesn't do the things he does. He might be more intelligent than the average bear, but that's technically not really saying very much, is it? So, anyway, by the by. So this is the world. So a Cyber Knight, see, back on track, I'm good at that. Cyber Knight, apart from the other day where I completely forgot what I started telling the story, I completely forgot, and I had to pause, I had to cut it out. Cyber Knight is the solo character, so I would advise you pick a character that you think you're interested in playing, but also is going to give you some facility to do stuff. You don't want a character, unless you just want to play a combat heavy game, and you just want to play a skirmish game, which there is a skirmish version of Savage Worlds, well there used to be, I don't know if they still push it, but you can find it, and that's fine, just play a skirmish game. But your social interaction part will be lacking unless you have someone who can do that. So we will be playing a Cyber Knight. So we have our character, we know what our character is going to be Cyber Knight. We'll roll that next session. I haven't rolled him yet. Or her, or they. So next thing, what you need is you're going to need some tools. Now to solo play, you do need some tools to help you that you don't necessarily need if you're playing as a group. Now one of the first things you're going to need is an oracle. Just one oracle to start off with, a yes, no, a closed question oracle. Closed, you always have an open question and closed question oracles within solo play. Closed question oracle is an oracle that basically has a yes, no answer. It's a closed question. Doesn't go anywhere. It's open. It's not an open question, it's a closed question. Yes, no. Do the guards spot me? Yes, no. Is there extra ammunition here? Yes, no. You always tilt it towards the yes, because that, and you try and make the yes answer be the interesting one and the no answer be the less interesting one. You still foul forwards as always, but a yes, no oracle. I just took my yes, no oracle that I got from the Lancer book that I wrote. That is a common oracle that you can find all over the place. I use a D20 and a D6. Roll the D20 for the answer, decide whether it's likely, unlikely, 50-50, whatever, and then you've got a number to go higher than, and a D6 to see whether there's a but, an and, or no complication whatsoever. The person in question who did their oracle said to draw a card for the oracle. The cards within Savage Worlds is the action deck. You don't use the action deck for anything apart from the action stuff. If you look in the books, not even when they say the reactions from NPCs, they don't pull a card out. You roll dice for it. Everything else is rolling dice, because the action deck is the action deck. You play through the action deck and you reshuffle the action deck when you pull a joker. If you use the action deck for other stuff, then you are knocking that probability matrix out. you're not going to get the same probability if you start pulling it out for various things. So you don't use the card, don't use a mechanism within your solo play that has a job for another job. If you want to use cards for that, to make your own one and use cards, fine, but to get a second deck of cards, don't use the action deck within Savage Worlds. So make sure that whatever you choose, you do it that way. So yes, no Oracle. Feel free to grab this one. Well, if you want to sign up for the newsletter that goes out this Saturday, I will include this and a link to it. But it will only be available for a week and then I'll bring it down again because I might decide to pretty this up, lay this out and flog it for a cheap price. Who knows? Next tool you need to use is for open questions. Open questions are ones that don't necessarily only have a yes/no answer. So there's a pile of stuff, what's in the stuff? Well, like a yes/no doesn't really answer that question. That's what a DM would tell you, what's in the stuff. So you need to be your own DM, you need some open questions. This is verbs, nouns, thematic prompts. You need some of those tables. You can buy a product with those tables. You can get Mythic, you can get various other things, or you can try and come up with a list which is specific to the game you're playing. I have come up with a list of things specific to the game we are playing, RIFTS. I have a list of verbs which are RIFTS specific verbs. D100 for a list of verbs, so a list of 100 verbs. Didn't take long because I ripped most of them off of other things and compiled them together to be things that would be more specific to RIFTS. Specific to what I am going to do in RIFTS that we'll get round to, which we'll be talking about very next, because you also need to have some more thematic prompts or some people, places, things, and some enemies to randomly roll for enemies. Now, for RIFTS, you need to have, I'm going a bit fast because I don't want this to be a long video. For RIFTS, this needs to be vital to where you are on the RIFTS planet. Hence, a generic Savage Worlds Oracle does not work. So, what is our Cyber Knight going to be doing in our solo campaign? That's the first thing. Now, we could try and just randomize it and just work out what he's going to do, or we can give the one a mission. So I thought, because I've been watching a lot of, I can't remember what it's called, Lost Lands. It's got, what's her name, from Resident Evil and what was it, Fifth Element, I can't remember, Milan, whatever her name is, her in it, and Thingy, the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy, Barista. His name's not Barista, but Barista. Dave Boyd Barista. But that, I haven't watched it all. I started watching it, but I haven't watched it all. It's not a great film. It's an awful film. But you know, they're basically, it's the same as that and various other ones. Post-apocalyptic. There's one with Vin Diesel. The person has a job to move a thing from A to B, and it's vitally important that person moves the thing from A to B. Our Cyber Knight, who we haven't rolled yet, has got a thing. They are at A, and they need to get to B. And this will give us a travelling across the RIFTS world journey between A and B. Now, then you've got to say, well, where's A and B? So you look at the map, pull the map up again, please, Editor Pete. And then put a dot where we're going to start. We're going to start down somewhere near the Vampire Kingdom. Around the edge of the border of the Vampire Kingdom, not deep in the Vampire Kingdom, because that would give us a little bit too many trouble. And we're going to head to Castle Refuge, which is where the Tomorrow Legion's base is. Because I read the books first, I have this information that I can play with. You can cut back to me now, Pete. So, we need to travel across country. It's not a very big journey. It's through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. We need to be in the Vampire Kingdom for a period of time. That could be quite exciting, a bit horror. Then we've got the Picos Empire, which is more desert and bandits. Then we can choose either to go to the Texas Freelands, which might be interesting, or because of what happens within the Picos Empire, we may end up having to go through the what would I call them again? Coalition. It's called the Coalition of States. The Coalition of States, which is like the bad area. Lone Star, then we definitely have to move through some Coalition of State areas unless we're going to go right around the outside and try and avoid it. But no matter what, we need to go through some coalition, which means we're going to have some interest. They have cities that we might be able to go through, which means we're going to do some urban-y stuff in cities, trying to get through the city and not get caught, rolling some encounters. And then we get into our area, which I think is Quebec. It might not be. where we have our castle refuge, and we get to castle refuge. So we have a path, basically it's a road trip. So what we now need is we need tables for those areas. So to start off with, I know we're going to be in Vampire Kingdom for a bit, and then we're going to definitely go into the Picos Empire for a bit. So I have created thematic prompts for the Vampire Kingdom. I have created an enemy table for the enemies that are pulled out. I also have PDFs for Blood and Bane. What are the other two? I haven't got their names here. There's the 3 supplements: Blood and Bane, Empire of Humanity, and the third one, Arcane. I bought the PDFs for those. I sent those to a place in Australia. I've not sent it to this place before, to Australia to get printed, because I don't have work to use their printers anymore. And that is winging its way. It might be here sometime this week, which also this week gives me that time for that to come. But because of the PDF, I scoured the PDF for the enemies within those, and I built random enemy tables in case we encounter something. I can roll a random enemy for those areas. For those 2 areas, I will do the other areas when we get closer to them, because there's no point front loading all of your work and you never get to use it. So then, as a solo player, we know the rules for our system, we know the setting for our system, we know the character we want to use for our system, we know what we want that character to do within that system. We have a closed question oracle, we have an open question oracle, we have some thematic prompts and some other tables. We can just spend some time making those tables ourselves, or we can purchase something. There's loads of people who make just table books that you could get. There's this, which at some point I'll stick out there and you can purchase this. I'll make it really, really cheap, so I won't lay it out wonderful and there won't be that many images, and I just get a Sora to do images. And again, in case anyone watches this and complains that I don't use a human being to do artwork, I can do art. I do have an A level in art. I am quite a talented artist. I mainly worked in physical structures, so I did sculpture, and I did pottery, and I did big physical things. I do physical art, not really drawing art, but I don't have the money to commission an artist. If you are an artist and you want to give me your art for free and I'll stick it in my books and put your name on it, fine, but I can't pay you anything. That's just it. But Sora, who I pay for GPT, so Sora, who comes from GPT, Sora will make that art for me for nothing. And I can use it, and I have to give it the prompt, I have to tweak it, I have to put it into Photoshop. I still put a human element onto it, but I'm afraid it is AI art. I do apologise if you don't like that, but that's just the nature of the way. So, moving on to the next thing. How will we approach our solo gaming? We don't have a guide to tell us what to do to make it more interesting for ourselves. So, drama clocks are something I use quite extensively in a lot of different ones of the systems we use. So what I've decided is we are going to have, and basically because we're in a RIFTS world, we're going to do drama clocks. We are going to have either a 4, I've written here, a 4 for a dangerous area, which is magic field, a 6 for an averagey type area, or an 8. Now, what are our clocks going to do? Our clocks are going to give us a list of boxes, 4, 6, 8, depending on the area we're in. Every time our wild die rolls a 1, every time we roll on any of our thematic tables and we get a double of the same number, anytime we pull a joker out of our action deck, we are going to tick off one of those clocks. When we have ticked off and filled up the whole of that clock, we will reset that clock and a rift event will occur. No matter what, we will either, if we're in the middle of a combat and it triggers, there might not be a rift event, but maybe some reinforcements will come, or a third party will join the fight. So if we're out in the desert, we're fighting some bandits in Picos Empire, the bandits and us are having a fight, a joker gets pulled out by the bandits, that hits clock 4, then we might have some animal charges in, or a herd of animals charges in, attacks the bandits and attacks us. So we have to fight them, the bandits, and everyone else going on. We just throw some chaos in. Or it might be a rift event triggers off and a Tyrannosaurus Rex walks in on us. We will have a clock that will have rift events on a wild die hitting a 1, on a double number from any of the tables we roll, if there's 2 dice like the percentages or D66, or if a joker comes out of the deck, will trigger this. So that throws some unknown stuff into it. We will be using Theatre of the Mind for combats. Now what we're going to do is, I've decided, by stealing from other systems, we're going to have 3 ranges: close, near and far. Close is melee damage, hand to hand in the same room. Near is short range, across the room, in an adjacent room, short range. And then we have far is long range, you need to have a sniper rifle or targeted shots, or you know, you're flying overhead of something if you've got flying abilities, that sort of thing. We will then have negatives. If you're in close range with your opponent, there is no penalty. If you're in near range, there's a -2 if you're trying to throw, but if you're using a ranged weapon, it's fine. We will then have far range, which is a -2 if you are trying to shoot, and a -4 if you're trying to throw something. Simple bits. Cover, if we thematically describe cover for either side, there's a +2 to the roll. So basically, instead of trying to hit a 4, you're trying to hit a 6. A blast template will hit everything which is in the same area. So you'd need to be in close range. So everything which is in that area that you've thrown it into. So if I've thrown it into something which is in that close range, everything which is in close range with it is going to get hit by the blast template. If a fireball gets thrown at me and a couple of allies from the local village, we're all 3 of us are at far range, that fireball hits all 3 of us. That's it. We will not let combats take too long. After about 5 rounds of combat, we are going to declare that either something runs away or something falls away, unless we're enjoying the combat. But if it goes on for too long, we're not going to allow combats to drag out on this one. Bennies, we will give bennies to ourselves. We'll start every session with 3 bennies, which is pretty much standard. If we feel that, so bennies, I'm not 100% sure of the playthrough. Wild card enemies will get 1 benny to use to throw to soak damage and make them special. The Cyber Knight will get 3 bennies, and if there's opportunities for the Cyber Knight to do something cool, we might award the Cyber Knight a benny. If it aces loads of rolls, we might award the Cyber Knight extra bennies, but basically we'll have 3 bennies to play with a session. And I think that's basically it. So that is how I am going to solo Savage Worlds Rifts, starting next week, where we will roll the character with the Cyber Knight, give the Cyber Knight a name. Don't have any names to tables in this. I just have all the verbs charts for, at the moment, Vampire Kingdom and Picos Empire. And of course, that's thematic prompts, people, places, things. So I've got a mixed table of people, places, things, because I just did a D20 table and did it round like that, instead of doing a separate people's, places, things tables. And I've got a D8 table for enemies that might be in those areas for both of those bits. And that's it, really. That is how we are going to do Savage Worlds Rifts, and that is how I would advise you approach doing a solo game for yourself. So to recap, make sure you understand the mechanics of the rules fairly well. Make sure you understand the setting and the intricacies of the world fairly well. For example, an OSR fantasy game, you don't really have to spend a lot of time on the rules because there's not that much to it, and it's a fantasy world. You just need to understand the fancy tweaks, like, is it an elf heavy world, is there no magic, is it a magic heavy world, that sort of stuff. You're done. Then you need to decide what sort of character you're going to have that will give you some solo play fun. Then you need to decide what that solo character is going to do. Once you have that, you then need your tools. You need a yes, no oracle, closed question oracle. You can take one from various different places. You can just flip a coin. You can use a D6, or you can grab my one. Then you need some, so that's closed. Then you need open question oracles to help you. You need some verb tables. You need some tables specific to the sort of area you are to give you some helpful hints and helpful suggestions. Possibly some potential enemy tables, some random enemy tables, stuff like that. You can grab them off the internet, you can get them from me, or you can do them yourself quite fine. Then you have your tools and you can start solo playing. And we will do that next week. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what I'm going to do and what you can do yourself. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, do consider subscribing, and then you're going to know when Rifts comes out next week. Thank you so much to the Adventurers Guild, who will all have probably responded to this first because they get to see it 3 weeks before the rest of you lot. They are treated nicely, aren't they? They're VIPs, isn't it? Because they pay their hard-earned money to support me. Thank you so much for your support. They get back access to stuff, not backdoor access. They get various different things, and they get to, you know, just be awesome and have their names get across there. And that's about it, really. Thank you so much. I look forward to next week, where we will create our Cyber Knight and get them to do something in the Vampire Kingdoms and carry their MacGuffin. I don't even know what the thing's going to be. I'm assuming it's man portable. It's a man portable thing. I don't really want it to be a person. They're moving across country. I want it to be a thing, a piece of data or information or old tech or something important, but it doesn't really matter what it is. What matters is that the Cyber Knight has to get it to where it's going, and we'll go there next week. And I'll shut up now. See ya.